great to be among peers in this panel, and a lot to discuss. So your perspective and insight is always great. I follow, I think, almost all of you guys on LinkedIn. We're connected. So, and those of you who have not met, great to meet you. So, first question, and we'll start with Raj. You're new to Lexus, and but not new to the industry. So, should salespeople have more autonomy, you think? And especially now that you've gone from Kia to the Lexus brand, have you seen that you can have more autonomy? Do you have more autonomy with the Lexus brand?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what you believe in, right? And the more stuff you know, the more ways you can engage it. That's the way to go. You got to develop yourself, all the time.
Absolutely. So, what about you, Dodge? I mean, I was going to call him Dodge because literally he is the brand, for crying out loud, in that dealership, right? In your perspective, where you're doing a lot of social media marketing and branding off yourself, how do you find having the autonomy that you do have to do that?
I find the freedom that Dodge offers me. I made a brief stunt to Jag Land Rover to try out the luxury brand, and obviously there's a lot more red tape. So it defines you as a salesperson. To really, can you step out and show them who you are, really? Because people can read fake, and the more you can put your brand towards who you truly are, people are going to be more embracing that. So the freedom really is a big part of it. Obviously, there's going to be guidelines that you got to step into with the brand itself. And the dealership is another part of that. Where are they willing to go? How far are they willing to step out of the box to really reach a new level is basically the idea behind that. But I think giving a salesperson the freedom that they want or they need goes case by case. You got to really analyze who it is. People have strengths in one point and don't in others. So you really got to find their strengths and help them build up on that.
All right, so we're talking about autonomy in the dealerships and salespeople having more autonomy. So with that said, how would that change the relationship now between management and sales and the sales team? Let's do Marco.
So there's a difference between, I believe there's a difference between autonomy and freedom. Autonomy is taking the training wheels off to me and letting them ride on their own. But management should always keep an eye on the salespeople and the sales process. A lot of salespeople, especially in the early days, they tend to, including myself, they tend to think that there is a better way of doing things and trying to go around the process. So, keeping an eye on that, I think is a good thing ultimately. The relationship between the salesperson and the manager is only going to go stronger with the more autonomy and a hint of freedom that they are given, the salespeople.
What do you think, Justin? How do you find it in your dealership with your relationship with management?
I think the more autonomy that the salespeople end up with, it ends up being more of a collaborative process with your management team, because you end up sitting there and figuring out strategies together versus more so being dictated to, this is what we go through. And I think that's important because at the end of the day, the sales managers know the process, they have their experience, they're where they're at for a reason. But at the end of the day, we're the ones sitting directly across from our customers, and we're the ones that know our customers. So by allowing the salespeople some level of freedom, but working with them to take what they've learned and tailor-make it into the process for each customer, you end up being the most successful you can.
So Jeff, how do you find, or what would you say are some ways that management can better support their sales teams, especially going, we talk about autonomy and having that collaborative communication, and communication is a big one, but what else can they do to support you, especially going forward?
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about a few of these things today. One of them was we were referencing where a customer came in and the salesperson is responding to a lead on the computer, and the customer comes in and the manager's at the door saying, like, come on, there's a customer here. And I think if management can take a bit more of a role at helping that customer and assuming that role in the interim, where I know there's a lot that don't. Fortunately, my sales manager is relatively new to the management position, but he was working in sales before, so we see that at our dealership, which we're very fortunate for, because he can take that customer, he knows the product, and he can buy that time in the interim and still have a good representation for us at the dealership. I also think talking about something else we spoke about today as well is just in training. I think that there's a lot of management that'll, unfortunately, when I first started, I was just kind of thrown into the fire. I never worked in the industry. I didn't know anything about it. And it was just a matter of, here, go figure it out. And I think now more than ever, there just needs to be more of an emphasis on our management. It doesn't have to be necessarily an outside training, but even just that manager, because 9 times out of 10, that manager has come up through similar ranks that we had, and he or she can teach us some tips and tricks to help us in our daily sales.
So one of the most popular or unpopular subjects, depending on who you talk to in the auto space, especially for salespeople, is pay structure. How do you deal with this? And is there one method that works better than others in a dealership as far as pay structures for sales reps is concerned? What do you think, Paul?
I've never worked off of anything but commission. So being in the industry, I mean, I've seen people that have worked for salary, and I feel, I'm going to say they don't have as much fuel in the pit. I mean, every month, as they said, we've started early, you start fresh. So every month, you've got to start fresh and you've got to build that paycheck. Whereas salary, it kind of lets you sit back a bit, and I guess maybe not, personally I would feel it doesn't take it as seriously. Where commission is, you're trying to hold gross, you're trying to really help the business as well. So I think.
So are there any ways that you think it needs to change going forward?
I think continuing the commission, obviously, the way it is, as we were talking earlier, you were saying how the Equinox is basically going down in gross, yet they haven't upped the front end on it. So I mean, in that sense too, there's got to be some sort of bonus throughout it as well. I mean, volume bonus sometimes are unobtainable when you're from a small city. So there's got to be other values that you can put into the table, which doesn't even have to be just money itself. There can be other values that you put onto the table as well.
And I think it really depends sometimes too, if I can just add to that, where you are, where you're located, what the dealership is, because I can tell you firsthand that I'm positive that my dealership in Sault Ste. Marie, which has a population of 60,000 people, where we base our salaries off of gross profit, because we have a bit of a captive audience where it's a little more cutthroat when you're in more of a major center and you have 5 different dealerships and within a stone throw that are selling the same exact brand that you are. I think that pay structures may just have to be flexible to where you are as well sometimes too.
What do you think, Justin?
I mean, as a counterpoint to Paul, I've worked in the scenario where Paul was. We actually worked together, and now I'm at a place where there is a base salary and then volume bonuses, and I think one of the biggest add-ons that I can take away from other pay plans that I've been a part of is, in order to see kind of more successful deals as a whole for the dealership, also providing some type of incentives for the accessories department, for the finance department. Quite frankly, if I have skin in the game, I'm going to be much more invested in where that deal goes after it leaves my desk. Unfortunately, that's just the truth of the beast, right? Having worked in both, but to Paul's point about commission versus salary, there's a level of security having that salary, you're right. So there isn't necessarily I don't want to say there's a lack of fire at the beginning of every month, but there is I would say it actually mellows out the anxiety of being back at zero a little bit, because at the end of the day, your expenses are at least going to be taken care of for the month. And then everything else after that, you're really pushing for your gravy on top of that. So,
do you think the customer obviously can feed off that as well? They can tell you don't have that same anxiety, that same, we've all been where we've been in a slump maybe for a little bit, right? Yep. And it makes it that much harder to sell the next car. But when you're ticking along, everything just goes so much easier. It's almost the same thing where if you don't have that worry maybe in the back of your mind, like, you're able to relax more, and there's no, for sure a lot of the customers can perceive that as well.
Yeah,
it makes them feel more comfortable
that
also.
Kind of reek of desperation that we get sometimes,
exactly.
Right?
So, no, for sure.
No, and I mean, kidding yourself if you don't think that I've used that as a closing tool before. I'm not commission based. It's not about trying to get you there, right?
So, every time.
Whatever we can do.
So Raj, what strategies, from your perspective, being in your 11th year now in the automotive business, and given the 2020 that we've had, what strategies would you probably adapt or change going forward, or recommend your salespeople going forward in 2021?
You have to be out there. You have to be out there as a salesperson, because you cannot expect people to just, come to you or contact you at the dealership, okay? I always say that, my mantra is, what, we're in a dealership on wheels. So if somebody cannot come to us, we got to go to them, okay? And if somebody's just waiting, for somebody to come in or the leads to come in, you're a salesperson. What are you doing? How many business cards have you handed out? How many prospecting you've done? How many phone calls you have done, right? Your number shows, math doesn't lie, So instead
do you recommend a social media strategy as well?
I mean, again, social media doesn't sell you car. Social media gives you exposure, okay? But you have to be out there getting that business, Somebody right now, they're buying a car, okay? And at the end of the day, if you are at the dealership and on a Saturday and you didn't sell a car, you got to ask yourself why you didn't sell a car today. Have I done everything possible to sell a car today?
So Justin and Paul, you guys are big social media guys, and I'm going to as well as Jeff here. So I'm going to ask you guys quickly the same question. Does social media sell cars in your opinion?
Absolutely. I believe that as a salesperson, too many people rely on the marketing and the BDC of the business itself. When they're having a crappy day or having an awful week, it's why you're not bringing in more leads. And to Raj's extent, the same thing. What are you doing to pull your own customers in? Because you can't be sitting on your desk for the next up to come through the door or the next internet lead to come in. It's what are you doing out there to bring the next customer to you? And I know, proof in the pudding, that I've had customers reach out as far as Elliott Lake, which is 8 hours from me, making the trip to buy a vehicle off of me. And that is strictly off of just being, as you said, being out there. But it did lead to sales. There's been sales that have been strictly over my Facebook page alone. First time I meet them is the time, literally, them picking up the vehicle. And that's the most easy process. I can't say how much easier it is negotiating with somebody off of, once you have a social media presence or they feel they have trust in you, you've brought down that wall already. And you're not negotiating to beat the guy down the street. They want to buy off you. They already have followed through. And as long as you keep up to that, I totally believe that you can sell cars through social media.
What about you, Jeff?
Well, obviously all those were great and were great points, obviously, and they all ring true. But I think what a lot of people overlook is the retention aspect of social media as well. So I've been probably dabbling with Facebook and doing Facebook for about just hitting on 3 years now, and I've already seen, so it might not have been that initial sale, which of course I do get that from that as well, but it's that relationship I build with that customer after the fact. Like, I could have sold somebody a GMC Sierra, for example, and they're liking pictures of GMC Sierras or videos I'm doing, or other customers that I'm putting their pictures up. And so I'm always top of mind with them. And who do you think they're going to recommend? If somebody else is looking for a vehicle.
Everybody wants their car guy. Yeah, their own car guy.
I got a guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Or it's them, or it's their child, or it's their whoever. And so I just think that a lot of people are overlooking social media as a retention tool as much as it is just the initial gaining of the customer as well.
Do you think that brand? Do you think you as a salesperson or the salesperson, as the personal brand, is actually more important than the logo on the building now? Because as Paul and Jeff, and I know my friend up here, Justin, I know you guys have brought people in because of you. How much of that happens more now, you think, than before because of social media?
So the logo is important to a certain extent. If you're building a brand, you're doing it for yourself mainly, first and foremost, and the logo needs to be interchangeable to a certain extent, unless you're lucky to put your roots down in a place where it's owned by the same person forever and they treat you the same way and they keep throwing money at you, wherever the case might be, and nothing changes. That's great. But I look at the social media aspect more like my sort of like my legacy. There isn't, with the exception of the greats like George Gerard and a few other ones, really, there isn't, we're not, salespeople kind of come and go, and, we're forgotten about. So I treat the social media aspect more as what I'm leaving behind. So if somebody, that's why a lot of my videos are focused on teaching new salespeople what to do, because much like yourself, I was thrown into the wolves, and so I want people to search how to close a deal or whatever, and have my face pop up and continue that on, right? So, yeah.
Cool. So what can salespeople do now going forward, especially dealing? You've got all the other challenges you're dealing with. leads coming in all from all different angles, customers shopping even while they're in front of you. How can you manage all these expectations now and still close business with this new social distance world? What about, let's go with Justin first.
And it's all about keeping their attention at the end. Like, so whether it's sending them videos before they arrive, sending them videos after they leave. I had great luck having just a digital picture frame at my desk. Right now we've got monitors and everything, constantly cycling something for them to look at, right? So in a socially distanced world, a big screen sitting on the desk is going to draw their attention more, so they don't need to look down at their phone. They don't need to be looking at what the other Honda stores, what the other Dodge stores in the area are offering. You've got their captive attention, and you're building a bond with them without you ever actually speaking to them in some of those situations.
Justin, is there any new technology that you'd recommend going forward for this year? Jeff rather, not Justin. The other guy.
Well, you know what? This thing in my pocket right here, this might seem like it's new technology to some salespeople because they don't use it to do videos with, right? So I don't think that there's necessarily a ton of new stuff out there. It's just there's so many things out there that we haven't been using, right? I think this industry, and I'm sure most people in this room can agree, is one of the slowest changing industries, one of the biggest industries, but at the same time one of the slowest changing industries, and that trickles right down to the salespeople as well, that there's so much resistance to change and resistance to putting yourself out there. And so I don't necessarily think that there's a ton of new technologies, just the focus on the social media, the focus on, even if you're not doing social media, doing the video on your phone to send to your customer, right? I just think that there needs to be more focus on what we already have before we even worry about anything new that's coming out. That's just my opinion anyways.
Yeah, so Raj, as far as creating the customer experience is concerned, how do you find it now where you as a salesperson are able to define that whole experience for the client?
You have to be different, right? You have to create excitement, be enthusiastic about it, right? You have to build value, yourself, the dealership, the brand, and just make things exciting for people to come in.
Yeah, it's about that. It's just that. It's differentiating yourself from everyone else. Like Jeff was talking about earlier, in cities where there's 4 or 5 brands, like stores of the same brand, what's going to make you stand out from the guy down the road? And it's not even against the brand. The customer experience you're offering, your competition is their last great customer experience. It doesn't matter where it was. It could be at Tim Hortons, someone told them, have a great day, have a perfect day, here's your coffee with a smile. And that's going to be the thing that you are up against in the car sales process.
Yeah. So Paul, with so many Dodge dealerships around, what's that one thing that you attribute your success to? I mean, yes, you're on social media, but there's also a lot of other Dodge dealerships.
Absolutely.
What do you think has
well,
worked
one
for
thing
you?
I find, like the biggest thing I find working with a brand as big as Dodge, in a bigger city, I have literally a Dodge dealership that is literally less than 2 blocks away. So again, selling the experience, but it's building the value and keeping that. As I always tell my customers, I don't want to be just your car salesman today. I want to be your car salesman for life. I want to be the guy you go to for all of your vehicle needs. And that's the big difference. I mean, next to the dollar, that's literally it. Anybody can cut anybody else's dollar down the street. By the end of the day, we're all cutting each other's throats and make nothing off of a deal. But it's building the value that I'm not just here for the sale. I'm here for you long after the sale. And that's kind of something customers need to have, because they can go to any different dealership, but if you can show the value in my service department is going to take care of you. I'm going to have, the warranties. You have a salesman that's just going to be here for you when you have questionable gray areas that you can come back to. I think these are all things too that customers do build value in, than just going to, the McDonald's guy and buying just a car and calling it a day. Like Peel, the same thing with Peel. They have lit straight up. That is, anybody will, they'll steal my deal from anybody, but at the end of the day, where are they going to be for you when that car breaks down, if it does? Where are they going to be from you when you need something besides the vehicle, your next vehicle? So it's providing a service that they're going to feel is going to be more ongoing than just the sale.
Well, no. Let's be clear. I heard you word it differently before. I'm not just a one night stand.
Yeah,
What I heard you say before. I'm here for the
It goes
long
away
haul.
with some, exactly.
Yeah. That's a good analogy, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
But one of the things we can all do is is not to bash any other brands, right? As a salespeople, we have to respect each other's time, our efforts to sell them a car, right? So we're problem solvers, okay? And one of my biggest pet peeves is that when other salespeople talk negatively about somebody else, and that just shows who you are as a character, and just shows the lack of lack of experience of in this business.
So I'll start with you, Raj, with this next question. So with what we've just covered here, going forward in 2021, if you had a brother or a sister or a friend or wanted to get into the automotive business as a salesperson, what advice, what's that one thing that you would say that you'd recommend them do?
Be personable. Be somebody that you can open up to, right? Customer can come to you and understand them in a whole different way, just not you're selling a car.
What about you, Justin?
Listen way more than anything, because at the end of the day, I say that way too much. You're there to solve their problem, as it came up in one of the earlier panels, right? And the sooner you can identify what that problem is, what they're looking for to be solved, you can take care of that customer, and it's a more personal experience for that client.
What do you think, Marco?
First advice I give is go out and shop. Shop and take notes of how you're treated, what you like and what you don't like, and that's your sales process will write itself pretty much at that point, and what you say to your clients is going to take care of its own, because ultimately people just the happiest clients I've had, and I'm sure everybody can agree, is the ones that are that you're treating like wholly, 100%, the same way you'd want to be treated, especially our industry. As we mentioned, it's slow to change, and but clients have been changing a lot quicker than we had. And starting from when they used to wouldn't give you their phone numbers because you supposedly hounded them, to now they're giving you their phone number, begging you to call them, because no salesperson returns a client's call apparently nowadays. So they just want to go out, shop, get yourself if you have the chance, hire a realtor, fire a realtor. Go buy appliances. Most interesting one, try and buy a hot tub. Deal with a hot tub salesperson. See what they're like, because they're, wow. Knock my socks off.
So Paul, with the experience that you've had and the success that you've had, what would you recommend to your best friend starting out in the business?
Just understanding the simple concept of process. I really think I was like Jeff, literally the first dealership I started with, there was no process. It was just go out, find out what works for you. And making the next step to a dealership that actually had a process built. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. I mean, there is a simple process. Obviously, you're going to customize it or tailor make it to each customer, but it's simple. Like if you literally touch each aspect of the process, you will have a better chance at closing. There's no question about it, and there's a reason that this has been built. So process is definitely something I think needs to be built and distilled into to someone that's new to the industry.
And what about you, Jeff? You're in Northern Ontario. It's a different type of community. Would you recommend your friend or neighbor to get into car sales, and why?
Yeah, no, first I'd say no. No, but I mean, yeah, and so kind of harking back to what Justin spoke about and Dan spoke about, and one of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes is stop selling and start helping. And so I think right off the bat, that's one of the things you have to learn. And past that, I just think one of the things, and I hope this shows, and what I do as well, is just be authentic. Don't try and make yourself seem like you're somebody else or sound something better. Just be yourself in it, because I think again now more than ever people can really read through that. They know if you're not being authentic, and I think right off the bat that lowers that reduces so much stress and it breaks so much ice, and people know and then you don't have to live up to anything other than what you're already offering.
Yeah.
Right? So just keeps it simple for yourself.
So on that note, how have you seen the customers change in, given the pandemic, and what are their expectations now? How are those expectations changing? How are you able to service those clients?
This is me.
Two for one.
Yeah. No, I think I think again we spoke about this. The customer expectation is definitely higher. I think again it's funny because we as an industry we are so slow to adapt to things, and this forced us to adapt to things. So there's a lot of customers that didn't realize, they can deliver a vehicle, to my house, or they can do this, So I think that there's now a higher expectation because people are seeing the things that we should have already been doing and are able to do, but hadn't been doing. So I think, that's something we have to live up to, and I think there needs to be more of a focus again on some of the online things because not everybody is comfortable in coming in, and that'll help streamline the process so much if you can nail down that aspect of it. So you have so much more done before that customer does come in.
So I'll ask the marketer here, Paul, should a salesperson rely solely on what the dealership is doing, or what can the salesperson do to
If you want to make 40 grand a year, by all means, sit at the desk.
Sit at the desk and wait.
But if you want to make, that's one thing I love about sales. I had no idea getting into the auto industry what was actually available to you if you put your time and effort. And that's one thing. I had a business that I ran for 10 years before, and it is exactly that. You are literally going to work working for yourself. You have them supplying you with the inventory and the building and the clients that you have, but you get what you put into it. So you really do have to take those efforts to the next level and always think, what can I do to help build my day, to build my week, to build my portfolio, planting the seeds for the future sales. So I think that's a huge part to it.
How do you think, Marco, dealerships and salespeople can establish more trust with clients, especially in this pandemic where there's social distancing?
Well, the trust factor should be, whether it's a pandemic or not, if they weren't trusting you before the pandemic, then it's more, it was you. It wasn't me, sort of. No, honey, it was definitely me. No, but so the trust factor shouldn't change. The pandemic has changed the landscape, but at the same time, really, the biggest difference I found with clients and trust is more the precautions they are taking with the pandemic. Like I had a doctor come into the dealership, and he was happy to see that we were checking everybody's temperature when they walked in, sanitizing their hands, getting them to sign a piece of paper saying they didn't travel outside of the country and what's not. So that's the kind of trust that you can build during a pandemic. Aside from that, I mean, everything else should be business as usual, I believe.
Just one.
People show up on time.
Let's go down.
Everything, we ran out of real.
Okay, we'll start at one end. What has it done for you?
Just get out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, it's pushed us to be more creative in the ways that we find our clients, whether it's as a store or us individually. Paul and I were talking on the way up. It's taken what was going to probably be the next 5 to 10 years of advancement in terms of technologically reaching out to your customers and forced us ahead in the last year.
What about you, Marco?
I don't like that because now there's more competition in the field. So the big one is people to show up on time for their appointment. That's
huge.
In Toronto, that's huge because the traffic, and they take it more in consideration now. But yeah, it's the people show up for their appointment. Yeah, I gotta say that's the biggest thing. I'm a lack of words because that's like when that started happening, it changed my my day to day because now I could plan ahead better. Because before you plan the delivery at 3 o'clock, and then this guy's going to show up at 12, and then that guy shows up at 2:30, and your delivery shows up half an hour early, and all of a sudden there's all this mix-up. So that's been the biggest change, I believe, for me.
What about you, Paul?
I think one of the biggest things that frees up your day more, to be honest with you, by having customers that are more, they value their time more, and they don't want 1,000 cooks in the kitchen. They don't want to meet everybody in the dealership. They don't want to do a 4-hour process. You know when they're coming in that you can close this within an hour. Usually have them in the finance and out. So I think it's giving you more opportunity to do things like branding or marketing or just reaching out to other customers out there because it's shortening the process of the actual in-house sale.
How about you, Jeff? What positive impact has it had on you?
Justin and Marco took both my answers, but yeah, but you know, actually touching on what Marco was saying, it's not even the fact like you're saying that people aren't necessarily showing up on time for their appointments. Mine has just been in a small community, people just drop by, right? And so the appointment aspect I love because people are getting programmed to think that they need one. So I'll have people, oh, do you need an appointment? You absolutely do, you know, Mr. Jones or whatever, you know, like, so, you know, it's really trained in a very short time people to just expect that they need an appointment, which again has allowed us to free our day. And again, I just think the fact that you can streamline, you know, some of these people and do a lot more stuff online, which I'm fortunate that and Paul and people who've been doing online already, that we already have this presence, so people are going to reach out to us first. We can streamline so much before they even get to the dealership. So when we have a couple of seconds, we can reply to them online. They come in and we already know what they're doing. The vehicle's already ready, and along with that appointment as well. So those are the couple of things that I would change.
And also, I'm going to add to this. The dealership has been much more cleaner, including the cars.
Where do you work again?
Yeah, Lexus.
Jason Harris.
Wow.
I don't want to see it for myself because then it's more competition, but I think the dealers should be doing more in-house training for what we've been talking about a lot today, which is social media and doing it the proper way, and the dealership should be doing something where they're utilizing their sales force to be their advertising team, right? Again, that's not necessarily direct for myself, but good, you know, it can help me, right? Because especially living in a small community I live in, it might be Susan that's beside me that does the video, but my customer or somebody that knows my mom or whatever that knows I work there sees that video and then comes in. So I think that from a dealership perspective, if they're teaching these rest of the salespeople to do this properly on a social media way and a video way, it's going to only help all of us. That's one thing I think.
Well, I'll take that one first. I've been asked a question. I think in some cases, is one of the answers I gave earlier is dealing with that individual at scale, knowing that, okay, they're 70 or 80. It's going to be an uphill battle to try to convert, frankly, them to using social media or smartphones, let alone answer every email and reply to every voicemail in a timely manner every day. So I think it's important that, you know, the conversation with that person is totally different than everybody else, and making them realize, you know, yeah, you know, Bob, I know you've been here for 30 years. Things have changed, as you can see, you know, but it would be great for us to help you along. What can we do to help you, you know, to make this process a little bit easier? You know, do you need a new phone? Do you need some training? I think that one-on-one, heart-to-heart conversation might be a good start.
And sometimes something isn't always better than nothing. We've run into situations in the past where it's been kind of management mandated that people are making videos or making social media posts, making their own page. And ultimately, sometimes that devalues the efforts of the people that are really putting their heart and soul into it. If you get, you know, Jim that's been there forever, and it's always Jim, and he, you know, he grumbles on the video, and he can tell he doesn't have his heart in it. And that's the first video that a new customer to your dealership sees. The next time one of your videos comes up, they're more apt to just go, like it doesn't have that same quality put into it. But to include that person in your dealership's social media marketing would be awesome to do, whether it's just take a look at Jim next to our brand new Insight. Get his face on there, and then he might slowly find himself warming up more and more to the idea of participating in that kind of stuff.
I agree with that, like leading by example, just encouraging the people that are doing it, I think is the huge part of it, because nobody's gonna wanna be left in the dust. Eventually, this guy is going to wanna convert by seeing the example that somebody's actually, the results they're getting out of it. So you can't exactly just drag them to the water and tell them to drink. If they're not gonna drink, they're not gonna drink. But if you can show them time and time again that this is working, this is the new age, this is what we need to do, I do believe you're going to get them pushing a lot closer to it.
But I think it's not just a matter of, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, it's not just a matter of telling them to do it. I think, again, it harkens back to what I keep saying, which is we need training, right? So just because I can do a video doesn't necessarily mean that the person beside me knows how to do it. And I think that there's people that are maybe willing to do it, but if they're just told to do it and they don't know how to do it or how to start, I think that's where we have to start is from a training perspective and showing these people what to do and do it properly, because that's only going to benefit the dealer as well, dealership as well, because you don't want them going totally off kilter and doing something that's, kind of like Justin
And maybe
said,
sometimes
that's
the
not helping.
person who's relaying that information to that one individual who's kind of set in their ways is not necessarily the manager in this instance, but maybe someone else that they trust, a teammate. You relay the message to the teammate and, slowly help them along.
But I think, I think also just what he's talking about too is it's not even just that one person. Yeah. Like at most dealerships, it's almost everybody. Yeah. Like, because there's only we're Paul and I and Justin and Raj, we're standing out because we are the people that are actually doing it now. And there's a country of salespeople that aren't. So that means that the majority of dealerships are probably not having those people doing that. So I don't think it's just a conversation with one or two people always. Yeah. It's a conversation with the sales team.
Absolutely.
One thing is, if I can add, I think you're doing something right already, because I've watched your heated seats show. Yeah. So leading by example starts with, so what can the management do? Yeah. For the salespeople? I've been in the management shoes, and I can tell you that you can tell them until you're blue in the face to do it, and they're not going to do it. And I've done it. And then when I got back on the floor, I said, "Oh crap, I got to do it now." But that kind of pushed me. But if you're going to reach out to older people, a lot of people, when you tell them to do a video, they picture them like the videos that we do with our faces. First and foremost is our face. And by the way, there is the car sort of deal. But it doesn't have to start like that. Start with baby steps, like do a video on how to change a battery in our remotes. Silly and simple, but get them comfortable, get their feet wet before you throw them in the pool, and that's it. But that's the misunderstanding between management and salespeople the most, is that management tells them to get on video or get on social media or do something productive to get their faces out there, and they immediately think, "Oh my God, I just got casted for Glee or something." They have to be first and foremost, like their face needs to be there. Their face doesn't have to be there. The walk-arounds of the vehicles are what got my feet wet, for example, because it was like, okay, here, so-and-so, this is the Chevy Cruze or the Audi or whatever it is that I was looking at. And a quick walk around on the car, talking about the car. It's not about you. It's about the client and the car. So get that mentality out of the way, right?
So I have one question before we wrap up this segment, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I got a question after you, though.
Yes. Well, how about you go?
Now, this is a question for all of us here. Do you think that we should add the customer on all the social media platform? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
With their consent, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, if you have a business profile, or B, your social media image is squeaky clean. Those are the two, but I don't see any harm in adding your clients, sending them invites to your pages, doing whatever. It's just more points of contact, and ultimately they're going to look at your page, and the next time their friend is looking, hey, this is the guy that I bought from, check out his stuff. It's all right there in their phone already for them to look at, and that's a way easier referral than trying to find the business card sometimes, right? So that would be my...
Because I tend to do a lot of Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Can I add you on my Instagram and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But LinkedIn, I kind of try to stay away a little bit.
LinkedIn's not so much for selling. That's one thing. Exactly. LinkedIn is for building, your family, your business. Exactly. That's
job
where I've got
offers
each job.
Getting invited to this place, doing right now, that kind of stuff.
One of the things that one of the original bosses I had told me, and it's going to sound a bit mean, but he said, make people do most of the work, or as much as possible, other people. So ultimately, that's part of the reason why, for example, one of the things I use, because I don't have a great social media presence for my personal profile, and I don't think I want it because of that Vegas trip in 2015. But anyways, the point of the matter is, I do the delivery video when the car's nice and clean and it's looking its best. I do a quick walk around video, and then I attach my business card or myself, whatever, to the end of the video. And then I send it to my clients ahead of time. And then you can see, I do it on YouTube because it counts the views. But you can see how many times they're sharing that video amongst their family. And that's essentially doing the work for you, right? and it's going to make you stand out. Hopefully, still after this session, from other salespeople, right? So,
All right. So, my question to you guys and to the audience is, we've talked a lot about what the dealerships can do and what managers can do and so on. There's not too many salespeople I know, or managers for that matter, that spend a lot of time or money invested in themselves. I know Paul does, because he at least bought my book. So I know he. I know.
Oh, throw that one out there,
I
guys.
know. Right? Well, at least know he read one book. But I think one of the things I know for a fact, as I've traveled across, U.S. and Canada doing consulting and training, is not too many or actually very few salespeople invest in themselves to begin with. Most have never read a sales book, watched a YouTube video, anything to improve their own skills at their profession, or what is to be their profession. So I think a lot of the responsibility also lies within the individuals. And if these individuals want to get better, they can also say to their sales managers or dealer principals that, hey, this is important, just like you're alluding to here with the social media training is important, and it is obviously relevant to be done and necessary. So with more people like yourself advocating for that type of training within dealerships, it obviously drives the need for more training. Because, I can speak to that because I've developed courses and stuff that transforms dealerships, and try to get dealerships or salespeople to spend money. Sometimes it's very difficult, but it's important. I think if you want to have the best sales career you can ever have, is number one, I don't depend on my managers and I don't depend on my dealer per se. I appreciate what they do, but I spend a lot on myself to invest in myself. And where I can't afford it, then obviously I ask for help or I seek help elsewhere. But I think for any salespeople that want to get out of that $40,000 bracket, which is the average salesperson's income in Canada, by the way, it's $39,000 and change. Okay, it's not very much. Okay, all right? That's the average income.
I shared it with you in confidence. I don't know.
Yeah. Right? So if you don't want to be in that bracket and you want to be, in six figures or multiple six figures brackets, then it definitely involves investing in yourself, and you don't have to wait for your dealership to do that. But dealerships absolutely should invest more in their teams, and especially those who want to learn more. I'm a big advocate of that. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you being part of the panel and everybody that we've had up here today.